Betrayal. 9 of Britain's most decorated 4-star generals. The very men who have tasted the dust of Afghanistan and planned the liberation of Iraqi cities. These are not politicians. These are warriors, men who carry the weight of command and the memory of fallen comrades. They have just signed an open letter, a public declaration of no confidence in Keir Starmer and his government. They are not suggesting a problem. They are sounding a klaxon, an alarm bell that should be ringing in every home, in every street, in every corner of this country. They are stating, in the clearest possible terms, that the Prime Minister is a direct and catastrophic threat to the national security of the United Kingdom. They are accusing him of systematically dismantling our armed forces from the inside out, using the law itself as a weapon against our own soldiers, sailors, and airmen. The question they force us all to confront is utterly terrifying. How does a nation defend itself when its own government has declared war on its protectors? The BBC won't tell you this. Sky News will frame it as a polite disagreement, a technical spat between retired officers and the Whitehall machine. They will talk of complex legal issues and differing opinions. They will bring on some smooth-talking academic from a London university, a man with a wardrobe full of tweed jackets and a brain full of globalist dogma, to explain why the generals are simply out of touch, relics of a bygone era. They are lying to you. This is not a debate. This is a mutiny of the highest order, born of sheer desperation from men who have seen the consequences of political cowardice written in blood. This isn't a mistake by Starmer. It is a deliberate, calculated, ideological attack on the very concept of a British soldier. The generals call it lawfare. A term you need to learn. It's the use of our own legal system not for justice, but as a political weapon to fight an ideological battle. It's a poison pill, slipped into the military covenant, designed to paralyze our fighting men. And the target is anyone who wears the uniform of this country. The secret motive is clear for anyone with eyes to see: to weaken Britain, to neuter our fighting spirit, to make our soldiers so terrified of lawyers from firms like public interest advocates, often funded by shadowy globalist foundations, that they become useless against our enemies on the battlefield. It is a preemptive surrender to the globalist creed, a creed that despises patriotism, despises our history, and despises the men and women who would die to protect it. It is the quiet, creeping treason of a political class that no longer believes in the nation it is supposed to lead. This is the nightmare of Starmer's two-tier Britain, laid bare for all to see. In one tier, you have the heroes. The British soldier, the veteran, the taxpayer. Think of Corporal Davies, a 20-year-old from a forgotten town in the north, in a firefight in some dusty hellhole. He makes a split-second, life-or-death decision to protect his comrades. Under Starmer's regime, he must now consider not only the enemy in front of him, but the human rights lawyer behind him, waiting to prosecute him for doing his job. He returns home not to a hero's welcome, but to a brown envelope containing a summons. He is interrogated not by military police, but by civilian lawyers in expensive suits who ask him why he didn't offer the enemy a cup of tea and a chance to surrender while under heavy fire. We see veterans from the Troubles, men in their 70s and 80s like Sergeant Miller, dragged through the courts 50 years after they put their lives on the line to fight the IRA, their reward for service a living hell of legal persecution funded by your taxes. All while the terrorists they fought walk free, given amnesties and a seat at the table. We see the 6,000 homeless veterans sleeping rough on our streets tonight, abandoned by the country they served. While we spend £8 million of your money every single day on hotels for illegal migrants, a man who wore the Queen's uniform is freezing in a shop doorway in Manchester, forgotten by a government that sees him as an inconvenience. These men, who faced down Argentinian conscripts in the Falklands or stared into the abyss in Belfast, are the victims of this unforgivable system. They are punished for their patriotism. They are sacrificed on the altar of the European Convention of Human Rights, a document written by committee that has become a suicide pact for our nation. And in the other tier? The beneficiaries. The chosen ones. The hundreds of illegal migrants crossing the channel every single day in dinghies, guided in by our own border force. They are not met with legal threats. They are met with 4-star hotel rooms, 3 meals a day, and spending money, courtesy of the very taxpayer whose uniformed son is being threatened with prosecution. They are protected by the same ECHR that is used to crucify our soldiers. Their legal challenges, funded by you, ensure they can never be removed. We see dangerous foreign criminals, rapists and murderers, who the Home Office admits cannot be deported because of their human rights. A judge in London decides that sending a convicted Albanian drug lord home would violate his right to a family life, even though that family life was built on the misery of British communities. We see the Pakistani grooming gangs whose members, even after conviction, fight deportation on the grounds that their human rights trump the shattered lives of hundreds of British girls. And we see the very real possibility of former IRA terrorists sitting on a legacy commission, a so-called historical inquiries unit, to pass judgment on the very soldiers they tried to kill. A truth commission where the truth is pre-written, where the terrorist is recast as the victim and the soldier is the perpetrator. This isn't just a double standard. It is a moral inversion. It is a declaration that in Keir Starmer's Britain, a foreign national who breaks our laws is more valuable than a British soldier who defends them. It is a devastating, soul-crushing humiliation for every decent person in this country. The architect of this treason is Sir Keir Starmer. Let's not forget, this is a man who built his entire career as a human rights lawyer, often working against the interests of the British state, representing extremists and fighting to limit the powers of our security services. As Director of Public Prosecutions, he presided over a system that catastrophically failed to prosecute the Rochdale grooming gangs for years, yet was more than happy to chase down journalists and soldiers. Now, as Prime Minister, he has brought that same twisted ideology into number 10, Downing Street. He is a man who looks at a British soldier and sees a potential war criminal, not a patriot. He is surrounded by cowards and ideologues. His Attorney General, Lord Hermer, famously represented Gerry Adams, the former leader of Sinn Féin. His former deputy, Angela Rayner, couldn't even be bothered to spell a Remembrance Day correctly in a public message. His Defence Secretary mumbles platitudes about modernising the forces while the generals scream that they are being gutted. His Home Secretary is utterly spineless, wringing their hands about the small boats crisis they created, blaming the weather, blaming the French, blaming anyone but their own catastrophic open-door policy. This is the rot at the heart of our establishment. They are not governing for you. They are governing for an abstract, globalist ideal, dictated by a court of foreign judges in Strasbourg. A court of unelected, unaccountable figures who know nothing of British life, have never faced a hostile crowd or made a life-or-death choice in the heat of battle. And yet, they are the ultimate authority over our men and women in uniform. It is a colonial relationship, only this time, we are the colony. And who stands against this collapse? The 9 generals, for one. Men of honour like General Sir Richard Dannatt, who have finally said enough. But the true hero is the resurgent spirit of the British people, the common sense that has been silenced for too long by the metropolitan elite. It is the voice of Nigel Farage and Reform UK, who have warned for years that the ECHR was a dagger pointed at the heart of our sovereignty and a legal straitjacket on our soldiers. They were dismissed as fanatics. But the generals have just proven they were right all along. The people are the last line of defence when the political class has completely and utterly surrendered. This is where we are. On Remembrance Day, the day we are supposed to honour our fallen, our most senior living commanders are forced to publicly warn that the government is betraying their successors. It all comes down to the heartbreaking words of Alec Penstone, a 100-year-old veteran of the Second World War. When asked what his message was, he looked out at the country he fought for, the country his friends died for on the beaches of Normandy, and said the sacrifice was not worth the result. He didn't fight for this. He didn't watch his best friend bleed out on Juno Beach so that 79 years later, a foreign court could tell Britain it wasn't allowed to deport foreign criminals who break our laws. He saw the chaos, the division, the uncontrolled borders, the surrender of our values, and concluded it was all for nothing. Let that sink in. A man who faced down the Nazis believes the current state of Britain is a betrayal of his generation's ultimate sacrifice. His words are an indictment more powerful than any political speech. So I ask you this, and it is the only question that now matters, when a man who fought for the very survival of this nation looks at what it has become under the likes of Keir Starmer and says it wasn't worth it, who are we to tell him he is wrong? They want this story buried. They want you to look away. Their allies in the tech giants will try to suppress this video. Do not give them that satisfaction. This is your digital defiance. Your share is your vote. Your comment is your voice. Share this video with every person you know. Let them hear the general's warning. Comment below, has the time come to leave the European Convention of Human Rights and reclaim our country? Hit that subscribe button, because the establishment has failed. The fight to take Britain back has only just begun.